These last weeks and months have not been without their emotional challenges for the Weitzel household, for my wife Shelley and me. In my mind's eye, I can still pick up my children and they're still waiting for their first teeth to come in. And yet this year, Ben turns 18 and Rebecca turns 21. And quite honestly, I'm not okay with that. Sorry, Ben. Additionally, this past week, Shelley's parents, Rob and Andrea, moved. They moved out of the home that they have lived in for almost 50 years. They moved into another smaller home still here in town, but they left home. They left the home that they have known and loved, in which their children grew up. And those changes in our life have caused me to reflect these last weeks on the whole idea of leaving home. At some point, we all do it, don't we? Again and again, it seems, throughout our lives, we leave home. We leave home physically. We also leave home emotionally and spiritually. We leave those places that are familiar, comfortable, predictable. Now, sometimes we're ready to go and we can't wait to leave. Other times we would rather stay than leave. Sometimes we choose to go. Other times the circumstances of life push us right out of the door. Regardless of how or why it happens, leaving home is part of life. For children, it might be the first day of school or going to summer camp. Young adults move out of their parents' home to start college or go to work. The significant changes of life are forms of leaving home: a marriage, the birth of a child, a divorce, the death of a loved one, new employment or the loss of employment, moving to a new town, retirement, the loss of health, all involve leaving home. Really, all major decisions that bring us to the crossroads of life are about leaving home. And it can be difficult, frightening, and risky. For it invites us, it challenges us, it makes us change, forces us to be open to new discoveries about ourselves. It challenges our understandings of where we find our identity, our significance, our meaning, our security. Ultimately, though, leaving home is the beginning of our spiritual journey and growth. For in those times when we step out that door, we are more vulnerable to and in need of God. Leaving home is not, however, simply about the circumstances of life. As much as I might not want it to be, truly, it is the way of God's people. Adam and Eve left the garden. Noah left his dry land home. God told Abram, "Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you." Jacob ran away from home fearing for his very life. Moses and the Israelites left their homes in Egypt. And in this morning's gospel, Jesus is leaving home. The Gospels tell us that Jesus came from Nazareth of Galilee to the Jordan River. He left his home and now stands with John in the Jordan, the border between home and the wilderness. And in the waters of that river, he is baptized. The heavens are torn apart. The Spirit, like a dove, descends. And a voice declares, "You are my Son, my beloved. With you I am well pleased." And from there we are told the Spirit immediately drove him out into the wilderness. Baptism may happen in the river, but the baptismal life begins in the wilderness. Now, of course, the story is not only about Jesus. It is our story too. Yes, the Father's words refer to Jesus in a uniquely literal way, but they also apply to each one of us. By grace, gift, the choice of God, we are named God's beloved daughters and sons. So, if leaving home, getting baptized, and going into the wilderness is Jesus' way, then it is our way too. We leave behind our old identity. We are claimed by God as his children, and off we go into the wilderness. That is what this holy season of Lent is about. It's no coincidence that on Wednesday we were marked with the ashes of remembrance, the dust of our creation, and today the gospel takes us to the wilderness. The two cannot be separated. Wednesday's ashes lead us to wilderness soil. Lent is about leaving home, and leaving home in Lent and life always takes us to the wilderness, that threshold, that liminal in-between place where we are betwixt and between, neither here nor there. We've left behind what was, and what will be is not yet clear. In the wilderness, we come face to face with the reality of our lives, things done and left undone, our fears, our hopes and dreams, our sorrows and losses, as well as the unknown. These realities of life are the source of our temptations. We humans tend to externalize temptations and make them about behavior. Well, behavior is important, but the real temptations come from within us, not around us. We are either tempted to believe that we are more than or less than the dust of God's creation, or we are tempted to not trust God's willingness to get God's hands dirty in the dust of who we are. And so the temptations are not finally about behavior, breaking rules, or being bad. God does not tempt us to see if we are going to pass or fail. No, the temptations are a part of our salvation. They are for our benefit, not God's. We leave home and experience wilderness temptations to discover that our most authentic identity is as a beloved child of God, and our only real home is with God. Indeed, the wilderness is new territory for us. In the wilderness, the old structures, the ones we left behind, no longer contain, support, define our life. It is not, however, uncharted territory, for the way has already been cleared by Jesus. We go to the wilderness then with the knowledge and confidence that Christ has gone before us. And so leaving home is not so much a loss for us as it is an opportunity for God. In the wilderness, our illusions of self-sufficiency become surrender to God. Our helplessness opens us to God's grace. Our guilt is overcome by God's compassion. That's what happens when you leave home. We can never escape or avoid the wilderness. Like Jesus, we must go through it. We must face the temptations of Satan. We must be with the wild beasts. Yet we never go alone. The angels that minister to Jesus, they will be there for us. Remember who you are is their message. Remember that you are a beloved child of God. You are a beloved son of God, a beloved daughter of God. You are one with whom God is well pleased. Over and over and over they tell us. They remind us. They encourage us. They reassure us. And with each remembrance of who we are, the demons are banished. With each remembrance of who we are, we overcome the temptations before us. With each remembrance of who we are, we take another step toward God. That is the way through the wildernesses of life, remembrance after remembrance, step after step. I am a beloved child of God. With me, God is well pleased. I am a beloved child of God. With me, God is well pleased. Let that become our wilderness mantra. Let those words fill our minds. Let them cross our lips. Let them take hold of and occupy our hearts. For the truth of those words is truly the only way home.